Hello and welcome back to Gooner Gathering. You join us bang on time, 8 o'clock on the dot. I'm in my drop top. Anyway, good to see you in the chat, and joining me, as you can see, Gooner Gathering's founding father is unavailable today due to other commitments. So, drafted in from the subs bench once again, Canu on Henri, is Dominic Palmer. How are you, Dom?
I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. We're replacing one oldie with another.
Oh no, you're both like a fine wine. Don't worry.
Oh, well, I'll take that. I'll take that. Straight from work, straight to the studio. What can I say?
Excellent. So, obviously, we've got a lot to discuss. A lot of things have been happening the past few days regarding Arsenal Football Club, from the Man City match to the aftermath of the Man City match. And we've got a game tomorrow. So, lots to discuss, and I cannot wait for this. First of all, let's go through the chat. Already a comment in from True Gooner before we went live saying we'll be at a football match but have dropped a like. Have a great show. Thank you very much, Josh. And Dom, I believe you gave our channel a plug on Josh's channel.
I did indeed last night. Yeah, no, I was on his show last night. It was a good fun show. Fireworks towards the end as always, because I couldn't resist a little wind up towards the end, which always makes for good fun. But yeah, no, good show last night with Josh, and hopefully he wins the award he has been nominated for as well.
Yes, of course. He was nominated for an award, the Football Content Awards, I believe. So well done, Josh. Good luck on that. Emerson's in the chat saying, good evening, Bertie and Dom. Good evening, Emerson. Always good to see you. So let's jump into what we're going to talk about. We're going to start with the big game against City. So, look, as you probably know, Dom, on this channel, I have said some very unique things. Is that the word I'm looking for? Unusual, out of the blue things. But contrary to popular belief, I will always admit when I'm wrong. I will. I'll put my hand up and say, you know what? I got that wrong. I'm an idiot. And I got something wrong regarding the Man City game, because I thought it was going to be an absolute 0-0 ball fest. Because of the Atalanta game and the last time we played City at the Etihad and the way Man City played against Inter at the Etihad, I just thought it was all coming to this incredibly boring crescendo. Both teams frightened to score, or frightened to lose almost. But as the cool kids say, we got prime Barclays on Sunday. What a game it was. You must, I mean, did you think the game was going to be a ball fest, or did you think it was going to be, drama? And what were your thoughts going into the game, is what I'm trying to say.
My thoughts going into the game were wearing my brown trousers because I might need them. But no, like you, I thought it's going to be a tactical chess game here. It's not going to be end to end. It's not going to be terribly exciting. I mean, actually, I find tactical battles in some ways quite interesting, but they're not necessarily exciting. So I thought, like you, I thought 0-0, 1-1, not going to be that much in it. But I thought it was a really, really great game to watch. I mean, I'm about 10 years older from watching it, but it was really interesting to watch. And, I think just absolutely fascinating. The first half was, I mean, it wasn't end to end, but, both sides showed real intent. They showed desire, fight. It reminded me of the Fergie Wenger Arsenal Manchester United side really going at each other. I think they respected each other. I don't think they hated each other, but they were really going in competitively. And that made a fascinating first half. Second half was attack v defense, and that was just as exciting in a very different way.
You say our players, the players might not hate each other. I think Erling Haaland might have something to say about that, but yeah.
Hopefully not too much. Hopefully not too much in February. Hopefully Gabriel will keep him quiet.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. That's not until February. But look, I think last time we played at the Etihad and it was 0-0, I said that, back in the day, any all the big clubs when they would face each other. You mentioned Arsenal, Man United, or Liverpool, Man United. All these clash of the Titans fixtures like that. They would do anything and everything to try and win the game, and it was always really exciting. I think we got an element of that in the game. It's almost as if they heard my criticism, both teams, and thought, we've got to make Posh Bertie happy or he'll be ranting on Twitter again, so we've got to do it. But I'll be honest, actually, I wasn't able to see the full game on Sunday because
You were away, weren't you? Certainly for the first half, you were out.
I was in actually on the way back from Nottingham after seeing no cricket at all due to rain. But it wasn't a good start, wasn't it? 9 minutes in, we mentioned Erling Haaland. We often mention how Saliba is quite good at pocketing Haaland. Wasn't to be then. It was quite an easy goal for Haaland to score, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Calafiori's not quite in the right position. The centre halves aren't close enough together, and you give Haaland that space, and he's going to punish you. If there is one striker you don't want to give that space to in that position, it's Erling Haaland. In world football, who's going to score, 99 times out of 100. And to be fair, City deserved it. I thought they were excellent in those first 15, 20 minutes. And I think there were two game-changing points, and we'll come on to the second one of them. In fact, we'll probably discuss both. But once Rodri went off, and I thought Arsenal were starting to go into the game before that, but once Rodri went off, you could just see Arsenal reach another level of confidence. They almost felt not bothered by being 1-0 down and thought, yeah, we can do this. So I thought that was. I don't think it was solely down to that. I think Arsenal were going to go into games. I think you see a lot of the big teams at home start really strongly in those opening 15, 20 minutes with the crowd up. So I think, that was a factor in it. And then sort of the wayside comes back into it. But as you say, poor start. And I was fearing the worst at that point. I was like, oh God, I wasn't expecting 5-0. I was like, this is, they score a second in this game. Yeah, they go 2-0 up. That's game.
Yeah. And I think we'll discuss Rodri's injury in a minute, but you do notice a bit of a difference when he went off the pitch. I think Kovacic came on, and now Rodri hasn't played a lot of games for Man City this season, and so far City have managed to cope without him, getting wins over Chelsea, West Ham, teams like that. But when they faced us, you could tell how important Rodri was to the team, because it felt different from their point and how they played, because we were very much on the very much trying to target them properly now. And Calafiori, early on, I heard that Savinho for Man City was causing him big problems, but Calafiori rectified it by scoring an absolute thunderbolt outside of the box, an assist from Martinelli, which is always good. I actually thought Martinelli was probably one of our best players in that game, from what I saw, and which is a good thing considering that he's been underwhelming so far this season. But he got an assist, and Calafiori, what a belter of a goal! What do you think of that, Dom?
I mean, shades of Nigel Winterburn against Chelsea. It was a fabulous goal. I actually thought he was starting to go back into the game anyway as it came on. It's a big game to start him in for his starting debut. I said pre-season, that Arsenal would ease and should ease their new signings in slowly, given how difficult the start was and how important the system was to the way Arsenal play. So I wasn't surprised. Just obviously Moreno's been injured, but I wasn't surprised to see the start being delayed. In him getting a start being delayed, I think it was delayed slightly further than intended by the injury. But I think he kind of played the game I expected, which was to grow into the game as it goes on. But that moment was huge both for him and for the club. And I think, as you rightly say, Martinelli, I think his performance goes slightly under the radar because it was all about that rearguard action second half. So you sort of look at the Ben White, Gabriel, Saliba, Raya, who actually, although for all he made a lot of saves, he didn't have to make any. He didn't make that many massive saves, like he's been doing recently. But that's not to criticise him, by the way. More comment on how Arsenal defended, but those players are all the ones that will get the recognition. But I thought Martinelli, I think you're right. Not only did he get assists, which I think is really important for his confidence. I've always felt his form was linked to confidence rather than ability. But I actually thought he was one of our better players against Atalanta. I know he missed the big
Yeah.
chances, but he was also the one that
Ooh.
got into those positions. He was the one that always looked the threat, and I think that was a reward for, I think, the steady improvement and his great defensive work in recent days. But what a strike from Calafiori! A lovely, lovely strike. And I'm not having this whinging about Walker was out of position, by the way.
Yeah, and also good to see AFC always in the chat, by the way. But AFC always mentioned about Martinelli always having his head down when he's on the ball. And I noticed that's become a bit of a pet peeve of mine. He needs to look up. You know, you can't shoot from the floor. You need to look at the goal. Even I know that, and I'm terrible at football.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. But I think that's a confidence thing again. You know, I think as you get more confident, you go back to the things you know you should do and the things you're good at. You know, and I think if you go back to his peak a couple of seasons ago, he was running far more with the ball. You know, with his head up, looking for the ball, looking for the pass, or you know, taking the better option. So I think the two things are inextricably linked. But he's absolutely right. You can't continue to run with your head down because you know that's how you become, you know, a nobody really quite quickly.
So AFC always is in the chat, as I mentioned. We've got a couple of comments to go through for him. He says, if the team is serious, they'll click this season and actually aim to win a trophy. Rattling City is all good and well, but no one will remember us rattling them if we have nothing to show for it. Yes, absolutely. I think that was probably a really... hopefully we can win a trophy. We need to. I want us to. I mean, I personally think our lack of squad depth is going to cost us a trophy, but that's my opinion. We'll have to see what happens come the end of the season. He says Winterburn's goal was better than Calafiori's goal. Yeah, but they were both very good. Martin needs a goal to lift his confidence up. I agree with you there.
I'd agree entirely.
Thoughts on Raya and Calafiori injured? With Raya, hopefully he'll be back in time for the Leicester game on Saturday. I think he was limping back coming in the tunnel after the game. Hopefully it's. I know for a fact he won't start against Bolton, but hopefully he'll back to the Leicester game. Have you heard anything on Calafiori and Raya as well with his injury?
I'm always dubious about what Arteta says in a press conference with regards to injuries and the like. I mean, the way he was talking before the Tottenham
I'm dubious
game,
about what Arteta says, full stop. But yeah, okay.
But no, I mean, if you look at what he said about Odegaard pre-Tottenham game, Odegaard was never going to play in the Tottenham game, and yet he's hinting that you know he could be available. You know, and some people believe that, some didn't. I never believed that. I was like, no, Odegaard is definitely out of the Tottenham game. Like, you know, so I think let's wait and see what the team sheet looks like tomorrow, and we'll see who really is injured and who really isn't. I suspect that Calafiori was probably just a bit of cramp, a bit of tiredness. Hopefully, Raya, I think his limping was a concern. I imagine that he really will be out tomorrow. But I think if there's any doubt you don't play him, we could discuss it later. But if he is fit, I think you're probably going to have to start him.
Yes, might have to have a 16-year-old goalkeeper tomorrow. Yes, I heard about that.
Yeah. By the way, Emerson's right. By the way, I think that's my understanding of the latest injury situation.
Yes, and Emerson is more in the know than we are. So yeah, thank you very much, Emerson.
Don't say that. Everyone will switch off. But you're right. But don't say
it. Yeah, please stick with us. So 1-1, we're on the front foot, and when you give away a corner to Arsenal, in most occasions it's like giving away a penalty. And when Gabriel is in the box, it could mostly end one way.
It's like his archangel namesake, isn't it?
Oh my word! But yeah, he used his wings to leap up and head the ball in. It was suddenly
he had a Jamie Vardy Red Bull. Other energy drinks are available.
And it's 2-1 to the Arsenal at the Etihad. Obviously other things happened that gave a bit of taste in the mouth. We'll get to that in a minute. You must have been stunned, elated. I mean, I was stunned and happy. Were you thinking this doesn't slip, right? Right?
To be honest with you, I mean, yeah, stunned, elated, absolutely. I also thought it was probably just, look, probably 1-1 at that point is a fair score, but I think you could see us really go. I said earlier, we're growing into the game, we're getting better as the game's going on. Our momentum was with us at that moment. I mean, it's a lovely corner. You know, City fans, I think some of them are blaming Carl Walker for that. I think he's done his best to stay with Gabriel. He's trying to be physical. He's trying to get
Poking
tight.
him.
Yeah, but I mean, I do that in the box as well. I mean, I'm not tall, but I am a defender, and you go for the old step on the toes, you go for the old push, and Walker was trying to stay with him. He's an experienced defender, but Gabriel's run and all those bodies coming across, Walker just lost him. And look, Walker's a good defender, he knows what he's doing, but Gabriel is just a monster in the box. Now, what a delivery from Saka. And again, Edison, unsighted. Because we crowd that box with those runs that we make, and it's really difficult for the keeper and defenders to keep track. As you say, it's not like a penalty in terms of we don't score 9 out of 10 from them, but we score
You know what I
if you
mean.
get. But I know exactly
Corners
what you
are,
mean.
yeah.
Exactly. It's like a Rory Delap throw-in from Stoke back in the day, where it was just so dangerous. It is so dangerous. That if you give us 5 or 6 corners in a game, you're lucky if we don't score one. And that was amazing at that point. And at that point, I'm thinking, do you know what? We are really hard to break down. Good luck, City. Now we are firm favourites at this point.
As a young man who grew up with players like Mustafi, Kolasinac, and Sebastian Squillaci, it's just so great to see us defend exceptionally well.
It reminded me of the back four I grew up with, which was slightly different to yours. Messrs. Dixon, Adams, Bold/Keown, and Winterburn.
There you go. Yeah. Cal Kidan, subscribe. Thank you very much, Cal. Thank you. And leave a like while you're at it. It's always great to have new subscribers to this channel. Emerson says, prior to the second goal, Saka got it right with the second corner, as the first corner was a sighter. Yeah, we had another corner beforehand, and Gabriel may have headed it just over. AFC always says Mikel Pulis. Mikel Allardyce. Yes. Yeah.
Allardyce has been defending Arsenal today, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, we are playing his style of football, aren't we? But listen, I don't want to see the Tony Pulis football against Leicester at home, or against Bolton for that matter. We got to be attacking because when you're at home to teams like that, with all due respect, you got to go for it.
I said after the Atalanta game, I wasn't worried by the defensive football against Spurs and Atalanta, and expected it against City, and to some extent we did. I mean, the first half was slightly different. I think my concern was if that continues, as you say, in those games. But I always thought, what, these are 3 tricky away games. There are a few players out, and therefore you're sort of stretching the squad a little bit. That doesn't bother me at this point, but it does bother me if, as you say, if you go into the Leicester and the next couple of games before the Liverpool game, and you're trying to play that way. I think that would be a concern, but I don't think we will, if I'm honest.
All Arteta needs is a cap, and then there you go. If we won that game,
no one fancies a cold, wet, windy night at North London.
Oh, here we go.
Can they do it on a Tuesday night?
Stoke versus Arsenal. Imagine it. Oh, that's our FA Cup tie. Oh my word. AFC always says if we won that game, we'd be saying that was the best defensive performance in the Premier League. Yes, it was certainly up there. But you know what wasn't the best thing in the Premier League? A certain red card that we're going to have to talk about. It seemed like everything was going well. 2-1 up at the Etihad. We were organised. It was all good. Well, from what I heard anyway, because I wasn't watching it live. I was in the car. But then, and there we go. I agree, I'm afraid, with AFC always. Now, Trossard kicked the ball away when the whistle was blown. He said that he didn't hear the whistle, but
no,
regardless,
I'm sorry. At that range, you hear the whistle. There's no way you don't.
Whether you didn't hear it or not, these are the rules, and you broke them. Kicking the ball away is a yellow card, but Trossard was on a second yellow. Kicked the ball away. It was foolish of him, and he got a second yellow, thus meaning he got sent off, and now we're down to 10 men at the Etihad. the fans on the internet or wherever can moan about, oh, Michael Oliver, referee. No.
I'm not down with all that.
Trossard cost us this game. Trossard cost us a potential win at the Etihad. Now, I'm sorry, but it's not. The rules are the rules. They're quite stupid. They're probably unnecessary, but they're the rules nonetheless, and you've got to follow them. And Trossard didn't. It was actually worse than the Declan Rice, where he just gently kicked the ball. Trossard properly poofed it.
I think there's a big difference between those two incidents, right? So when that ball rolls at your feet like it did with Declan Rice, it's almost under your foot. You do kind of tap it, and it was a tap. It really was a tap, and I think that's pure instinct. Now, I need to be consistent on this. So, for me, Trossard has to take some of the blame. He gives the referee a decision to make, undoubtedly. Now, my first instinct when I watched it first time was actually when that whistle blows, he's already in the action of kicking the ball, and I didn't think he could stop because, I've been in that position before. I know it's at a very different level, but the whistle goes and you're already mid-swing. I actually saw it from a different angle and could see Michael Oliver blow the whistle. And there is a gap of half a second to a second, and Trossard could have stopped. And I also don't buy that he was passing it to Martinelli, because if he was passing it to Martinelli to get him away, he plays that ball flat, not hoof. We might be playing like Stoke defensively, and I think that's slightly unfair, by the way. But but we're not attacking like Stoke. We're not going to hoof it and hope for the best, right? And that's even that simplistic on the Tony Pulis Stoke. But so I think he gives referee Michael Oliver a decision to make. I think the rules are clear on that. I agree. However, there is a however to this. I also think, and welcome, Lee.
We've got a run in. Oh my word! We're talking about Trossard and how much of a fool he is.
It was. So let me interrupt you. You carry on. I'll jump in a second.
So I'll just finish off there. So essentially, Lee, what I was saying is Trossard gives referee a decision to make, and he's got to accept that, and he's going to have to take the blame for that. However, I do think this rule. I have no problem with the rule. I have no problem with the interpretation of the rule. And I think things like Saliba, of the 3 yellow cards we've got for kicking the ball away, Saliba one is the one I have no issue with whatsoever. He picks the ball up, trolls back with it, and then, that is delaying the restart. I think on this occasion, I don't think there's a delay to the restart because A, Man City didn't have the ball. We had the ball at that moment. Secondly, I think while he could have stopped, there is a little bit. There has to be an element of doubt whether that was instinct or not. And I also think it is for those ones where you are deliberately, and by deliberately I mean you are excessively trying to delay the restart. They're about to take the free kick, you run up and you kick the ball away. You stand over the ball when you've been told to move away. Those sorts of things, I think, are the ones where they're yellow card. So people talk about the consistency issue with Doku. I don't think Doku should have been yellow carded. People talk about Dominic Szoboszlai. I don't think he should have been yellow carded. The Brighton striker, whose name has just escaped me. That's the one. That's the one. There was an element of doubt as to whether that was or wasn't. I probably think that was slightly more deliberate.
I think that should have been a yellow card in my opinion.
And out of those 3, that's the one I would have booked. But that's where the rule is there for a reason. It's to stop those things. I mentioned it yesterday. For those that remember, Tim Krul, Newcastle goalkeeper, back at the Emirates. I'm going back nearly 10 years now, probably. I think he took something like 14 minutes worth of goal kicks. Raya was doing it a little bit yesterday, to be fair. But they're the ones where I think that rule should be applying. So I don't think Trossard should have been sent off, but I don't think he can complain about it either because he gives Michael Oliver a decision.
Yeah, absolutely, Dom. You've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly was my response on the live yesterday. Unfortunately, that when Trossard went up for that challenge. And then, as it says in AFC always in the comments, it's RVP at the new camp all over again. It happened so quickly when the referee's whistle blows and the ball is kicked. However, Trossard gave the referee the opportunity to actually send him off after everything that's happened with Declan Rice against Brighton, and Unfortunately, I wasn't surprised about it. That's the problem. I wasn't surprised about the red card at all. One thing I think we did quite well in the live was not giving it an excuse. It was a case of, right, so he got sent off. And then I don't think he actually helped himself or these teammates by sort of loitering around the field. Like, what, me? It was the case of, you're just making it worse now, mate. And it's like, you should have known a bit better. What I think the Arsenal boys did very, very well in following that was adapting to an extremely difficult situation.
I agree. I mean, my instant reaction, Lee, I was saying to Bertie before you joined, was in the moment I thought he was mid swing when the whistle went, and I thought that's incredibly harsh and unfair.
Yeah.
When you've seen it back, there is a delay. I don't buy he doesn't buy the whistle, whereas I do believe Robin van Persie didn't hear the whistle because he's a long way from the referee. At that moment, Trossard is 5-6 yards from the referee. I can't believe he didn't hear the referee. That sounds to me like an excuse for his behaviour rather than taking ownership for it, which in fairness to Declan Rice, he took responsibility, even though I thought he was harshly dealt with.
Yeah. I'm not a fan of how the Arsenal players are now still playing the victim after getting caught out by this rule now twice, because it just means they're not learning from it, regardless of if you think these rules are stupid or not. These are the rules, I'm afraid, and you've got to follow them. And if they're gonna keep on playing the victim, then they're not gonna learn, and we're gonna get various situations like this again and again. There'll be more times where we'll probably get sent off. The players will get sent off kicking the ball away. That's my fear. And then our game plan will go out the window, and we're back to Mikel Poulis all over again. Yeah.
I think Arteta spoke about this in the press conference today, didn't he? And he said, if we don't learn from it, we'll be idiots or something along them lines.
Yeah, along those lines, yeah. I think we will. In some ways, I agree with you, Bertie, about the playing the victim. I think on the other side of the coin of that is I like the togetherness that sort of shows.
Yeah.
And you can sort of use that sort of why always us sort of spirit to sort of help bond you together. So I don't like it, but I think there is a plus side of it.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
No,
it has been known.
We're gonna get our players doing a Mario Balotelli and have a T-shirt that says "Why always me" or something.
Do you know what? One thing I will add as well, as bad as the whole situation was with Trossard, at least it's only a one-match ban, and at least he'll be back for the Premier League game over the weekend. Trying to sort of grasp a little positive out of it, because Trossard, in fairness, Bertie, you're very much one as an advocate of this, saying he's a big match player. He's been so important for how we've been playing.
He's going to have to do a lot to get back in my good books, I'm afraid, after what happened.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. But I would imagine he would come back in for Leicester on Saturday. Like I said, I don't know how much of this you've covered in terms of like the lineup and potential rotation that will happen tomorrow, but I think Trossard's that important, especially with Ødegaard's absence, that he will come straight back in on Saturday.
Yes, I think we'll move on from this because we still have quite a bit to get through, and it's 28 minutes already. So yeah. Second half happens, and obviously it's us against the world, really, because we're down to 10 men at the Etihad, and even I thought we are going to get the biggest bus parking you will ever see. If you thought we parked the bus in these away games now, just you wait until the second half. And I got back to watch about the 70 minute 70 of it. So the last 27 minutes or so, if you include stoppage time. Oh my word! It was the amount of blue that we saw. It was like an ocean.
It's a tough watch, mate. It was a tough watch. It was tougher to call as well, because it was wave upon wave upon wave of attack. I've almost compared it to us playing rugby. And what I mean is, it was tackles coming in every left, right, and centre, and we were
that and City kept kicking over the bar.
Hey, And then, and of course, when we did when Raya got a goal kick, for example, it almost felt like he was aiming for touch so they can reset and then go for a line out. I'm not a big rugby guy, but you kind of get what I mean. One thing I was so impressed with is that they were so resolute and they were so switched on in what they were doing. They were brave. They stuck feet and limbs out where they had no right to do so. Big shout out to Ben White, who apparently had a little bit of a niggle. That's why he was not in from the start. Came in for Bukayo Saka at half time. What a bold decision that was. But a right one, probably. And, they just continued to frustrate City, I felt, for a long time. Into the when they were shooting, as Dom's already alluded to, they were sort of going a little bit wild and over the bar from outside the area because the shield of the Arsenal defenders was all around them. They couldn't get any room.
Yeah. I mean,
I
certainly.
I think the biggest compliment you can pay him, Lee, is that City ran out of ideas.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they didn't run out of patience, and they took one right at the end. But...
Yeah, I think that ironically, it's the second time we switched off twice in the game, and it shows City's quality. They scored on both occasions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, our defense was just absolutely sublime. David Raya, I'm so glad that he signed for us. He's an unbelievable goalkeeper, possibly one of the best goalkeeping displays from him I've seen. I mean, he just keeps getting better and better, I think. And it's just he was, as I say, he was great at Brentford. Don't get me wrong, but at Arsenal, he's massively improved. And I'm just so glad that this is all leading up for him to drop an absolute howler when he next plays for us. But
we'll let it be for now, because Posh, that's one of the most sensible points you've actually brought up in the channel. Is
thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. No, in that
one of the few things we agree on is that David Raya is excellent.
100%, absolutely 100% agree with you. He's been so consistent. He had to have been consistent, otherwise he wouldn't have picked up the blooming, Golden Glove award last season. And I actually think he probably had one of his best games. Perhaps he would have had to. He had so many shots against him. I think we might have done well to get about 5% of the possession on Sunday, but
wasn't it 12 in the second half?
I don't know. I was running out of nails, fingers, toes, and everything. It was hard to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. But of course, these things don't last forever, and I know people will go, "Oh, they exceeded the 97 minutes of added time. Why is this let in?" You have said this before, Lee, and this was
said it on the live, mate.
This was a thing that was brought up after, I believe, was it Darwin Núñez against Forest?
Yeah.
Last season. What does the word minimum mean?
Yeah,
they forget what the word minimum means, don't they?
It gives the referee it's an indication of the minimum amount of time they're going to add on. There are going to be stoppages in that sort of period between that 90 minutes and when the referees sort of give that indication. It's what it is. It's an indication. But you have to try and concentrate to the whistle. Look, it almost felt inevitable. Also, when you got the likes of a Grealish and a Foden coming on, it's it was almost inevitable. I mean, it was nice of them to actually wait for City to score until we blew the whistle. But I digress. That's only a little joke, Posh. Don't worry, I'm not really giving that as a joke, as a real genuine point. It's like, you knew it was going to happen. We'll give John Stones that little bit of credit. You guys might not like it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Stones, look, he came on. He operated almost like a striker to support Holland because of the situation.
I think every City player was playing as a striker at that
is
time.
Also a very good point. But look, he reacted first. I thought, surely he's got to be offside. Unfortunately, he wasn't.
No.
Be that as it may, I can't say I was too disheartened. You give me a draw at the start of it, I might have taken it. It's upsetting that we didn't pick all three up because it would have been nice. But look, circumstances in the game, despite what you think of Trossard's red card or not, look, they've gone there. They were brave and they defended really, really well. So it's a shame, but we move on, don't we?
Yes, of course. So what I wanted, look, I know that we were up against it with 10 men at the Etihad and City were piling on the pressure, but I just wanted to bring up, I know a lot of Arsenal fans like their stats, so I've got a stat for you.
Oh, God, I know where this is going.
Timber and Kai Havertz were the first two outfield players on the record
passes
since 2003 and 4 to not successfully pass to a teammate. Kai Havertz did that. We don't need a striker, apparently, don't we, Edu? But yeah. Oh dear. I know we're up against it.
I think that's
for the first time in 20 years.
Yeah, it's an incredible stat, that. But I don't think that should take anything away from both of those players' performances either, by the way. I thought they were both magnificent defensively. I know Havertz is our striker, but his running, his and Martinelli's running in that second half was also just as important as anything they did offensively, to be fair to them.
Yeah, sorry, Posh. Sorry, mate. It's exactly the same thing I said to Posh over on the phone earlier on tonight. Yeah, I knew the stats, and I kind of knew I could feel the daggers coming out, just like the Simpsons with the mob coming out to attack him. But look, I felt that he absolutely run his socks off. He was there for 90 minutes plus of the game, and the amount of time he tried to put the pressure on the defenders, he tried to slip in positions, he tried to block gaps around the place. Yeah, I'm slightly more surprised on the Timber stat, to be honest.
Yeah, I was surprised.
And credit to you for finding that as well, mate.
I thought Timber was all right. I thought Timber was all right in the second half.
Yeah.
Which is weird. His positioning, anyway.
That's the thing, because the way they lined up, if you want to sort of really tactically analyse it, they lined up with sort of a 5-man defence, 3 centre halves and the 2. I kind of call them wing backs, but they didn't really get forward very much. And then just the sort of the 3 in front, right? So Havertz had come from number 9 centre forward, and he was sort of more or less sort of supporting his 2 midfielders. He
was a number 6.
Yeah, exactly that. And it was like, right, so we're going to try and block as many gaps as we can, and for him to I don't want to say get away with it, but to be as brave to do that. I mean, listen, I think, Don, we're more or less the same sort of age, right? And you would thought when a team goes down to 10 men, you'd often think, but back in the old day, they'd go to a 4-4-1, have one guy, sort of solitary guy up front, and they just try and just sort of keep it a little bit narrower. But no, I think Arteta brought up this very point in the press conference. Same sort of thing happened a couple of years ago when Granit got sent off, right? And what would have happened back in the day? We might have got beaten handsomely.
Well, we got beaten 5-0 last time we went there and had a man sent off.
That's exactly it. Exactly it. And
Rob Holding getting out jumped by Gundogan.
Yeah,
I remember it well.
And that's not what happened this time. It's not what happened this time. Yeah, City had all the ball, and credit to them, they're a great football inside, forgetting all the politics and everything else. They know how to pass the football around, right? But they got frustrated. We put up a decent fight, and yeah, there's going to be a few bruised legs around the place, I would imagine, coming into tomorrow's game. But look, they can be proud of what they did on Sunday, I feel. I don't think they could have done much more, Bosch.
No, fair enough. We were up against it, but it was a very, very, very dominant City performance in the second half. I think only 2 times we went in their area. I want to move on now and talk about...
Just really quickly, I think you can sum it up as gutted but proud is how I summed it up.
Yeah, well put, Dom. Yeah, couldn't have said it any better myself.
Yeah, I mean, it was certainly a dagger, wasn't it, the equaliser? But yeah,
isn't it?
So close, but yet so far. Do you think, though, if we had 11 men, we'd have won it?
Oh, you can't even say that. I don't know. It might have been a completely different game. Who knows?
I think with 11 men, we'd have beaten Brighton. I'm not so sure on this one because, as Lee says, it's impossible to say. I think what you do have to do as well is give credit to Arteta. If you remember last season, people were praising Ange Postecoglou, and in some ways I get it, right, for the way he played with, I think he had 9 against Chelsea, but he stuck to his principles, and I kind of admire that, but it was also rather stupid. What I like about Arteta is he can adapt his tactics based on opposition and game state, and I think he's really grown that over the last 5 years. Now, you can criticise the defensive part of that, and I think that is a legitimate criticism. However, I think the fact he can adapt stands us in really, really good stead for games, particularly as we get to those tougher games in the Champions League and away trips like we've seen. And let's not forget, at this point, and I just want to do this math stat here, we are 5 games into the season, we have 11 points. But we have been to Villa, we have been to Spurs, we have been to City. That's 3 of our toughest 6-7 away games.
Yeah.
If you say 92 points wins you the league, and I think it will be less this year, by the way, but if you say 92 points wins you the league, that's 2.4 points a game. We currently sit at 2.2, having had that run of fixtures with 7 players unavailable at times for games out of a squad of 25. Let's be honest. I know 22 are registered, but it's 25 in the first team squad. And we've had those 3 away games. So I think this shows that we're in a real position to make a title push here.
And
statistically, and just the eye test.
On top of that, Posh, I know you with the fixture list that came out, you were quite apprehensive on where we'd be at the end of September. You know what? Like Dom said, look, unbeaten at this stage. I think that's not a bad start at all.
Okay,
it's not perfect. It's not perfect, and we haven't played some of the flowing football that we might have wanted to do. Certainly Tottenham, certainly on Sunday.
You can't do that when you're at the Etihad or Villa Park or whatever. You're going to have to, try and do something else because, and
that goes for sides like City as well and Liverpool when they're playing these games. It works both ways.
I want to move on and talk about something that happened today. News came out that various Premier League clubs wrote to the PGMOL to condemn our dark arts, our time wasting, and after the City game. Let me say
disgusted of Tunbridge Wells rights.
First time Tunbridge Wells gets a mention on Gooner Gathering, a local place near where I live. Come on.
It's not far from me either, but it was a famous famous sort of joke, I think in the 90s, about disgusted of Tunbridge Wells writing in with issues to the national newspapers.
I was disgusted by it, absolutely appalled.
And it was signed off disgusted of Tunbridge Wells, every letter.
Yeah.
I'm showing my age.
Well,
I know where you're coming from, Dom.
Not Tunbridge, more like Dumbridge. That's how I feel about these Premier League clubs because look, when you've got 10 men, when you've got 10 men and you have a 1-goal lead and you're in stoppage time and the other club you're playing against is trying to hit you on the back foot constantly, what are you going to do? You are going to have to do things that are going to try and give you an advantage to stop the dominance from happening. Other clubs have done this. I have watched many football matches, ones that do not involve Arsenal, where clubs have had a 1-goal lead and their opposite team are throwing the kitchen sink at them in added time, and they're doing everything they can to make sure they can run down the clock. I've seen City do it. I've seen Liverpool do it. Do you know what? I've even seen Ebbsfleet do it live and in person. And you know what?
Jose Mourinho, Chelsea did it for years.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I've seen it time and again. This is nothing new. I don't know. Yeah. What are your thoughts on it, Lee Meadows? I'll go with you.
Okay, look, where were these people complaining when Newcastle drew 0-0 at the Emirates? When literally
the ball was out of play for 60% of the game.
Crikey, O'Reilly. I think the ball was actually in play longer than any other period of football in the whole season, if my stats aren't correct. You know, Bertie, looks like you're shaking your head. So yeah,
no, it was.
Nodding. I should say. Sorry,
no, you're totally right, Lee.
Thank you. So look, I don't know what they want. I kind of think of dark arts. I also think of things that we might do during the set plays, which are clever. Like people like the stuff that like Ben White getting in the people's way and whatever. But look, it's up to people to call. If they don't see it, whatever, you can't call it.
Yeah.
Cry me a river. I don't care.
Cry me a river. We're using real glass. It's almost every club has a naughty boy, as we'll probably call it in the PG sense. We had that
boy.
We had that Brighton fan on our channel, and he mentioned Veltman. Clubs have the S-Hauser. We've got that with Ben White. It's nothing new. It's not. Yeah. So I remember Man City were time wasting a bit when they came to the Emirates 2 seasons ago when we lost 3-1. Even I was saying that they were time wasting a bit. So again, it's nothing new.
Exactly that. Look, it is frustrating when it happens against your team. Good God, is it frustrating? And you want to get hold of the referee and go do something about it. But every team, as Bertie and yourself, Lee, have said, every team has done it. And that includes good teams. Going back to Alex Ferguson, who was sort of the almighty when I was growing up. He's got... Yeah, these guys did it. And it is frustrating. When you're on the receiving end of it, like I say, it's freaking frustrating. But
it is, yeah.
But I missed Lee's joke, but I'm sure it was a good one because he's still grinning now. But
I do it all the time just to get pop out of Bertie, to be fair.
But it is part of the game until the referee's seeing. But also these things, you're standing on toes, you're giving a little nig in the ribs. It's every team, every player. Well, not every player, but a lot of players do it. But by the way, can I just point out, João Felix has just been booked for delaying the restart.
The irony.
He wasn't on a second yellow, so there we go. I've
got Villa on my telly at the moment. I understand City are a couple of goals up in their game as well.
By the way, Villa are above us in the Premier League. I know it's 5 games in, but they're 1 point above us. I just thought I'd bring that as a fact. We're 4th.
Right.
I know it's early days, of course.
How many games is the Premier League season, mate?
Of course. I'm just saying. I'm just bringing you factual information.
Oh, yeah.
I'm bringing you factual information. And I will say about, people think that Arsenal are going to be, with Rodri being injured, people think, Arsenal are the only team that are going to be in the driving seat in the transfer window. Hell no. In the title race. There are 2 teams, one more obvious than the other, that can be up there with Arsenal and compete with City for the title. And that's Liverpool and Aston Villa. Yes, I'm going with it.
Oh, do you know what? You're actually being very respectful there, Posh. I think you're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, terrible news what's happened to Rodri. In all genuinely, following what I follow in the WSL, I've seen more than my fair share of blimmin' ACL injuries, if it's indeed what's happened here. Anyone who's got any sort of normal human sort of traits around them, you don't go and celebrate people's injuries, by the way.
Some of the things I've seen online, and there's nothing short of disgusting. Nothing short of disgusting. If you celebrate someone being injured, especially if it's an ACL, sorry, regardless of who you support, you're a disgusting human being.
It's look, it is excellent news for Arsenal. It is excellent news for the title race. Rodri has said some things about Arsenal, but do you know what? If he was my player, I'd be cheering him from the rafters for saying that things about opposition. But regardless of what he has or hasn't said, and etc., and he's done some things like kicking players on international duty and that sort of thing.
Oh yeah.
You would not wish that type of injury or any type of injury on your worst enemy. But it is good news for Arsenal. That's kind of how I see it. But I hope that his recovery goes well because,
Yeah.
like I say, he is still a human being at the end of the day.
It's likely to be about 9 months. Sorry, Bosh, I'd say this. It's likely to be about 6-9 months from what I've seen with ACLs.
Like Timber.
Yeah. And maybe it's a sign of some sort of strange respect how good a defensive midfield Rodri is. Because, like you said, the reaction, like Bertie said, it's not great. It's certainly not been amongst our channel or anyone connected to our channel. I think we were, you see the injury and you kind of hope it's not too bad. It doesn't sound great from what we're hearing. I don't think Pep said anything more up to where we are tonight anyway.
It sounds like it's an ACL. I mean, it's a bit like the threats about to Veltman and his family. There's no place for that whatsoever.
Unacceptable, mate.
Yeah, I agree entirely. Like I said, it is good news for Arsenal. There's no question for our title hopes, but that doesn't mean that I'd have wanted that to happen to Rodri.
But
on paper, yes, it is because you've but I just don't. You never celebrate someone's injury.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
And in Posh's terms, what you were saying about the old in the title race, maybe it does close it down a little bit because City, just in terms of their playing staff and how important he is, it's a massive blow. It's all you can't. It's like us losing, say Declan Rice or someone like that. You can't, just taking someone like that out is massive.
Yeah.
So
could I just have 60 seconds on squad depth here? Because I think what this shows really, there's a lot of talk about squad depth, and my view in Arsenal's is that we have the numbers, but the balance may be slightly wrong. That we've got one too many defenders, one too few attackers. But in terms of numbers, squad depth is actually there. Now, there are certain players for every side where if they are out of a side for any period of time, it will hurt them. For City, it's Rodri, it's Haaland, and it's probably it's De Bruyne, Foden at the moment.
Yeah.
For Arsenal, it's Rice, it's Saliba, it's Saka, and it's Odegaard. Thank you. So people are talking about we haven't got a replacement for Odegaard. Well, I think we have. It's Trossard, it's Ranieri, it's Havertz, because that's the way you replace players like that, because no one wants to come and be the backup behind them. But also, even if you do get a backup, let's say it's James Maddison. I made the argument about why I thought he was probably sensible to Spurs. Firstly, it was consistency, but secondly, he's going to want to play in the Odegaard position, and he's not going to. He's too good a player to come and be the backup to an Odegaard, because Odegaard's fit. He's that important to us that he plays, and it's the same with these guys. So I think it's the depth there is not about how do you replace these superstars, because every side has these 3 or 4, and this is why it's such a serious injury for Manchester City, because they've lost him for the season almost certainly, and he's one of those 3 or 4 players. And that's where I think that squad depth argument needs to be nuanced around who you lose and how many. If you've lost 7 or 8 players, I dare any side in the world to put out an absolute top class substitutes bench when you've lost 7 players. Because no one's squad depth is that deep. Because if you have a squad depth that deep, how do you keep everyone happy? Because certain players want to play every game, certain players want to play 3 out of 4, and then the ones that aren't playing, well, they're going to want to play more than 1 in 10. But I think that is why this is good news for Arsenal from the title race perspective, because he's one of those key players that you can't replace. You can bring in a Kovacic or whoever, and City actually are stacked in midfield. It's their strongest area of their squad, but you still can't replace Rodri because he's that important.
The other point on that, Dom, as well, is that it's a long way from back in the day where we were young and watching Arsenal. You can't talk about like a starting 11 these days, I don't think.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
I think that's right.
Because the amount of games that they have to play week in, week out, like this week we have the cup tie against Bolton, which I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. By the way, I think it'd be good to watch. I think
it's the Rob Holding derby
for the likes, yeah. certain players will really, really need that game. I think Martinelli and I think Sterling are certainly two of those players who I really think will absolutely relish that game. Jorginho might be another one as well, just to get himself out there.
I think you're right on there's no such thing as it's why I made the argument that I had no problem with Zinchenko playing, because I think there are, while you don't start Zinchenko against Liverpool, Villa, etc., I think we saw in that opening game of the season how against the smaller sides actually he still has a place in that side because he basically is an extra midfielder for you playing at left back. Calafiori will certainly become that, but there's still that place in because there isn't that starting 11. You want to do different things for different games, and that's where I was praising Arteta earlier.
And that's the argument that maybe I should have tried to bring up on an earlier stream with Bertie, is that if he was to play Zinchenko into in a midfield position, he would have done so already. If you look at it, technically he already has done many a time in that kind of inverted role.
Yeah, I think if he was fit, I think Zinchenko starts in midfield tomorrow, by the way. But unfortunately, he's not.
He's not, no. Unfortunately, he's going to be out for a few more weeks, according to the boss, anyway.
Look, we have to move on because I want to talk about something else that Rodri said, which might be intertwined with his injury here. Now, this could either be nothing, or this could be the biggest bit of foreshadowing I've done on this channel, even bigger than what Lee said about Declan Rice to Arsenal in January. Last week, Rodri said something interesting in the press about fixture congestion and how it might be too much. He said that footballers might potentially are close to going on strike. Now, I don't know if that's bluffing or true, but I'm not sure. He's just picked up an ACL injury the game after he said that. I originally rubbished the claims of, footballers going on strike, but now it's Rodri who said that, and he's just picked up an ACL injury. Could this lead to dissent? I don't know.
Other players are coming out and saying the same now.
Yeah,
I agree.
The irony of Rodri is that he hasn't actually played that much this season so far because Pep tried
of his
to rest
injury.
him. Yeah,
he got injured during the Euro final.
Yeah, and Pep tried to protect him, but because ACLs are generally you're either very unlucky or it comes from wear and tear where you're using your body too much. I'm being very simplistic about that. And the irony is he hasn't played that much this season, but I think his point is right. There is too much, and you almost dilute the product to some extent because they're so tired, they're not playing at their peak. But yeah, I think he kind of called it, didn't he? I think you're absolutely right to point that out, Bertie. He kind of called it in advance,
especially with the expansion of the Champions League as well. Just so the extra couple of games in there. I mean, we could probably debate the whole Champions League situation for about 3 hours on top of what we're already doing. But I don't think Bertie wants to do that, and I don't think I do either. But
listen, all I'm going to say is
great point, Bertie. Great point.
All I'm going to say is, can you imagine if we're top of the league, coming up to the last game of the season, we're in the driving seat, and then all the footballers go on strike, thus declaring the season null and void, and we don't win the league?
Oh,
can you imagine?
I don't.
Do you want me to pull him off right now?
No, I'm not saying I want it to happen. Hell no. Can you imagine? It would be like
the broader debate though is right. You have to look at the Premier League. You've got all the cup competitions, the Champions League. On top of that, all the things like the Nations League, all the Europeans or the
World Club Cup this year coming up,
the international friendlies, and all of that sort of stuff. It's an absolute nightmare. In terms of your match preparation as well. Look at Arsenal, right? Just for an example, coming out of the Thursday Champions League game, and they're in Italy, away from home, coming back home to London Colony, getting prepared for Manchester City on Sunday. Absolutely ridiculous.
I think that is true when you're coming into these biggest games. I think you have to look at where those big games are and give both sides a match preparation. The only thing I would say with that is that's not uncommon. That's been happening in Europa League or even the Champions League for years, right? Wednesday, Saturday, Thursday, Sunday. But you're exactly right that what it does give you is it basically gives you one day to prepare for the game. and that does dilute the product, right? And it does put a lot of strain on the player's body. But that's been happening for years and years. But I think this situation was avoidable. Why on earth were we playing on the Thursday when everyone knows that one of the biggest games of the season is happening on the Sunday?
It's a great question, which I do not have an answer for, mate. Even the Champions League playing on
it's called Wonga.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Wonga, right? I mean, it's as simple as that.
Yes, I think this is a boxing reference from AFC Always. I felt like I was knocked out by Dubois when Man City equalised.
That's the guy who beat AJ on Saturday or Sunday, I think. Yeah.
There we go.
Just really quickly, I noticed AFC's Always is very kind comment earlier. I noticed about 2 or 3 minutes ago. I wasn't sure if you still in the chat. Thank you. That was very, very kind of you. That was very nice of you. Thank you.
What we do appreciate, Dom, and I know Josh is the same. You're very much appreciated on both our channels here at Gooner Gathering and True Gooner. Talk of the devil, there he is.
No, this was a comment from ours.
This was early.
I just pointed out because you mentioned him.
Yeah, absolutely. Josh is actually, this is probably a good stage, a little bit of a nice little segue I could do for him as well, because just as really quick, Josh has been nominated as one of the young content.
We mentioned this.
You have. This comment. Fair enough. Well,
we'll do it twice.
Make sure you vote for him in the Young Content Creator of the Year, because he deserves it. It's a great guy.
Yeah, I agree.
I will briefly. I'm not going to go too much into the Bolton game because we've not got a lot of time left. But what I will say, I'm going to bring up the lot. This isn't going to be the first time we face Bolton Wanderers in the League Cup.
Right.
The last time we played them was in 2012, back when it was called the Carling Cup. Oh, yeah. This was our lineup. Dom's covered up here. I'm sorry, Dom, but this was our lineup. Look at it. Look at that thing of beauty.
That Fabianski in goal?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
2011, I beg your pardon, not 2012.
Iggy Miguel, Sebastian Scalacci, Frimpong, remember him? Coquelin. There's only one. Yeah, exactly. Yossi Benayoun, one of the players that came in from Chelsea. He was on loan. I've got some notes.
Kel Surprise.
Who's that? Who the heck is that? Next to it's Nico Yanis. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with him, I don't think.
Yes, indeed. I remember him. Andre Chauvin, Park Shu-young, and the Ox himself. My God. 2-1 to Arsenal in that day. What do you think of the score coming up for tomorrow, guys? Do you think it'll be a similar 2-1 for Arsenal?
I think we'll have a rotated squad. I think Sterling might play. I think if we are going to have a 16-year-old keeper in goal, we are going to probably have to have Saliba and Gabriel again as the back.
It makes sense to me.
I do think that.
Especially when it looked like Calafiori and Timber went off with potential knocks. If we've got a 16-year-old goalkeeper to potentially, I'm sure you probably already bought up. If you haven't, it looks like Setford is injured as well. Looks like
so's Nygaard.
There you go, fantastic. So
we're down to our 5th choice goalkeeper.
I've got a pair of gloves. I can get up there. And Emerson thinks we're going to win it on penalties. I think we've got enough. I would hope we've got enough. Certainly in the attacking threat with Sterling, Jesus. To come good.
Surely at home, with all due respect to Bolton, they're like 15th in League One. I've checked. Surely, with all due respect to Bolton Wanderers, I know Paddy McGuinness is probably a lovely man, but we have to beat Bolton at home. Surely.
I really hope this doesn't happen. By the way, tomorrow, Sky Sports Football's just gone on complete fault.
Oh.
Well,
let's hope we don't have a complete fault tomorrow defensively.
Yeah, I think it'll be 3-1 tomorrow. Is what I said yesterday. I hope. But I think the squad tomorrow is. Emerson asked earlier what our 11 is. I think it's almost impossible to tell because we just don't know who's fit. I said earlier to Posh, I said I don't trust what Arteta says in a press conference because he plays mind games all the time about who's fit. But I think
Cards to his chest, I think is fair.
exactly that, right? It's what a good manager should do. You don't want to give any kind of advantage. I think if there's any doubt about David Raya tomorrow, you don't play him. But if he is fully fit, then I play him tomorrow. Because you don't really want Saliba and Gabriel is going to have to play because of the injuries. Because there's 7 players unavailable again tomorrow out of a squad of 25. That's 25% more. Well, it's more than 25%. It's 28, 29%. Of your squad unavailable. Yeah, it's yeah, so it's really difficult to say the 11, but one of those two's going to have to play. But I agree with what you two said earlier. They both have to play if you've got a 16-year-old lad in goal. It's really unfortunate Setford and Nygaard are both injured, though, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Was he the former Wrexham goalkeeper? Is he still with
No,
us?
that's his brother.
Yeah,
His brother.
Okay.
So his brother Arthur was at Arsenal. Is now the Wrexham goalkeeper. This is Brian Conqueror, his brother.
He was on the bench for the under-21 game yesterday.
I
sent you the lineup for that. Yeah.
Yeah, he was unused substitute, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so at least we've got someone who could at least sit on the bench.
AFC this is what happens when you didn't have a proper transfer window. Your squad isn't equipped to deal with injuries. This is why I've said our lack of squad depth is going to cost us, especially that we might have to have a 16-year-old in goal. I know I'm all about giving youth a chance, not like 11 whole changes, obviously, but 16-year-old in goal, you're pushing the boat out a little bit there. But I want to see maybe Wanyeri in there.
Miles Lewis-Skelly. I think, can I just come in on that point, though? I think there has to be some context around this, right?
Yeah.
This is our 5th choice goalkeeper. Now, you can talk about the Neto is cup tied, and we knew that when we signed him. But I think we were after Juan Garcia. I think the ideal world, we'd have had Ramsdale out earlier to get a proper deal done for number 2. So I'm less worried about that in the League Cup. But I think when you've got your first choice, third choice, and fourth goalkeeper injured, that's incredibly unlucky. I don't think anyone kind of gets that far down with it. And I just think, I said this yesterday on Josh's stream. If you look at the players we had unavailable, and I'm just going to do it for the Spurs game because that's what I did it for yesterday. This would be what City would have out. And City's squad is actually, in my view, smaller than our squad, by the way. And I can explain why if anyone wants me to, but I'll move on from that now. But with the players we had unavailable, that is essentially Ake. It's Wilson Esbrand out. It's Rodri out. It's De Bruyne out. I can't think who else was missing, but because it's gone out of the top of my head. At that point, I dare any side to say have a really, really, really strong bench. They can field a good first 11, but I dare any side to field a strong bench, and I think that's where we are. And I think that context is important. That you're missing 28, 29% of your squad, and I don't think any squad in world football copes with that many players out of it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Seriously, look at a City bench. If you take those players out, look at the City bench. They're scrambling around. They've got a 16-year-old playing today.
That's because they're missing Oscar Bob, who picked up an injury during the pre-season as well, which is a big loss for them, being that, take Haaland out. Again, it's the same situation.
If Haaland gets injured for them, they're screwed. But they're now missing Rodri, they're missing Ake, and you can start to see them scrambling around as well now. They have a 23-man squad, if I remember rightly. But that includes Esper and Wilson, who they didn't have to register. Mm-hmm. Arsenal haven't registered our third choice goalkeeper, Wanyeri or Lewis-Skelly, because we don't need to. Man City have had to register their third choice goalkeeper, Scott Carson, because of his age. That's essentially Setford.
And he's English as well, so that's part of why they have him. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have to be English. They have to have been in England, registered for a club in England.
I've got a homegrown player trained by a club in England or something.
Yeah, and by the way, you don't have to have a certain number of homegrown players. You just have to. There's a cap on how many non-homegrown players you can register. Right. So you can register a smaller squad like Arsenal have done. What was going to say? I think. Yes, technically we have registered the smallest squad in the Premier League, but it's not in reality because Man City squad is essentially the same size as ours, if not one player smaller. It's just they've registered one of their under 21 players and we didn't register our 3. And they have one more player registered than us.
Okay, well, very good point, Dom. But I think, can I just say it's good to see Oregon Gooner in the chat. You may have joined a little bit late because we were about to wrap things up. But listen,
So good. It's great to see him there.
always,
It's
always good to
appreciated.
see you. Saka shouldn't even be on the bus. Yeah, I agree. He needs the rest.
He's
He
going to start
prob-
tomorrow.
I was going to say, I bet he makes a part of it because the amount of first team players that we've got available, I bet he makes at least the squad.
Probably
He
on the
made the
sub
squad.
bench.
I think if Martinelli's fit, you start Martinelli, Sterling on the right, and Jesus up front. But if there's a risk on Martinelli, because he was again one of those that he's played all 3 games the entire way through in the last 3 days, and he apparently also had a little bit of a niggle at the end of the game. If he's not fit, then I think Saka will start. Otherwise, I think you're right, Lee will be on the bench.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
Okay, well, thank you very much for this lovely stream, and it's time for us to head off. So I'll go first on the socials. You can find me on Twitter or X at PoshBertie. My Instagram is at 31less, and I run Gooner Gatherings Instagram account is at Gooner Gathering, where we watch Arsenal, so you don't have to. Except we're not watching Arsenal on the chat along basis tomorrow. But we are going to be back later on this week to probably discuss the match, whatever happens with it, and a preview for the Leicester game. Score predictions for tomorrow. Well, it depends who starts, but I'm going to go 4-1 Arsenal.
Oh, you've pinched my prediction. You pinched mine. Right, I'm going to have to go even better then, aren't I? I have to go 5-1. There you go.
3-1. I think that's what I said yesterday. Apologies if that's slightly different. I genuinely can't remember, but 3-1.
AFC Watch is going for 2-0. Okay.
I'll take that. I'll take a 2-0. Take a clean sheet with someone who's got to be in school the next morning. I'll take that every day of the week.
Absolutely. And we haven't won this competition since 1993. Yeah. So Steve 31 Morrow. Years. So it'll be good to win
it well, Dom.
We're showing our age again, aren't we?
We are. We're veterans of the business.
Be nice to win a nice cheeky Carabao Cup. I wouldn't mind it at all. Anyway, Lee, where can they find you on social media? That is, not in real life.
Okay, fair enough. You can go to me if you want. Can find me at Gooner Lee Meads. Can find everyone here on the channel at Gooner Gathering. Of course, we've got the TikTok channel as well, which I look after for the fun little clips that go normally from the chat alongs, and I put them to a silly bit of music because I've got nothing better to do in my life. Where can they can find you, Dom?
I have absolutely no idea. I'm on Twitter somewhere. I think that might be my handle down the bottom. So I'm occasionally on here, occasionally on Josh's True Gooner podcast. And if any NFL fans are out there, online Big Blue, I'm occasionally guest appearance on that. That is a guy called Tim who used to work in the NFL, and he and I are big Giants fans. He does quite a lot of shows a week, and occasionally when time zones permits, we do a show together. So you can occasionally catch me there as well.
Amazing. I've got to say, I've enjoyed jumping in. I wasn't scheduled tonight. Bertie, great job in hosting. Thank you very much, Dom, for being here. Unless we've got anything else to say, I think we are out of here, boys and girls. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. As always, a winner is you. I'm going to get a season.